Galactic history tends to hinge on details so small that they go unnoticed until everything changes around them. Four spaces. But when discussing the great conflict known as the Clone Wars, there is one foundational assumption that shapes every event, every tactic, and every moral debate across the galaxy. Four spaces. The assumption that the Republic fights with clones and the Separatists fight with droids. Four spaces. But reversing that single assumption reconstructs the entire war from the ground up. Four spaces. To understand just how dramatic that shift becomes, we need to establish a clear foundation. Four spaces. In the established timeline, the Republic relies on a vast army of genetically engineered soldiers whose training, instincts, and loyalty create a force capable of operating with precision and adaptability. Four spaces. These soldiers, grown in accelerated time, become deeply connected to their Jedi commanders. Four spaces. Meanwhile, the Confederation of Independent Systems deploys nearly limitless ranks of battle droids manufactured at industrial scales. Their armies rely on quantity, centralized coordination, and cost efficiency. Four spaces. When these roles are reversed, the galaxy does not simply experience a tactical reshuffle. It experiences an ideological inversion with consequences that echo into politics, economics, ethics, and the Sith's hidden agendas. Four spaces. So let us begin by examining how the Republic would even justify turning to military droids once again. Four spaces. The Republic's distrust of droids runs deep, shaped by past conflicts where automated armies turned entire planets into battlegrounds. The memory of those wars lingers in the Senate and among civilian populations. Reintroducing droids as official Republic soldiers would trigger debate, resistance, and fear. Four spaces. Senators who champion organic rights would argue that giving military authority to machines erodes accountability, while pro-industry blocs would see an opportunity for profit, influence, and power. Even so, the Republic faces a practical advantage. Droids do not require food, housing, training cycles, or medical care. They can be produced quickly, replaced cheaply, and deployed in environments too hazardous for any living being. Four spaces. This alone gives the Republic a strategic edge, especially in long attrition campaigns. Attrition no longer equates to funerals or veteran shortages. It simply means shifting factory output. Four spaces. On the other side of the war, the Separatists find themselves embracing a path far more complex than simply ordering another batch of B-1 units. Producing clones is a biological and logistical challenge requiring entire planetary networks of nurseries, medical bays, educators, genetic maintenance facilities, and psychological conditioning units. Four spaces. The CIS may possess immense wealth, but wealth does not equate to infrastructure. Their manufacturing worlds built for robotics would need to be replaced or expanded with biotechnological environments. Four spaces. Beyond logistics lies philosophy. The separatist movement built its identity on opposition to centralized control, taxation, and the influence of corporate monopolies. Yet clones, by their nature, are created through a centralized biological monopoly. Four spaces. This ideological tension fractures the CIS coalition. Idealists argue that living beings fighting for their cause embodies true sovereignty. Industrialists insist clones are too costly and unpredictable. Extremists claim that raising sentient beings for war contradicts their message of freedom from oppression. Four spaces. Despite debate, clones under the CIS banner would be raised with a very different worldview. Instead of loyalty to the Republic, they would be conditioned with narratives of independence, autonomy, and resistance against Senate corruption. Four spaces. This ideological programming produces soldiers highly motivated, competent, and adaptable, traits that battle droids lacked. Four spaces. On the battlefield, the first major shift emerges in the opening engagements of the war. Republic commanders deploying droid battalions would rely on overwhelming numbers, specialized units, and precise coordination. Droids could march through toxic atmospheres, molten terrain, or vacuum-exposed battlefields with no risk beyond material loss. The Separatist clones counter this with tactics grounded in initiative and independent decision-making. These soldiers are capable of evaluating battlefield conditions, exploiting weaknesses, and improvising beyond any pre-programmed logic. This creates a situation where neither side mirrors its original strengths. Instead of the flexible Republic striking against rigid battle droids, we now see rigid droid formations clashing against fluid clone tactics. Jedi involvement changes dramatically as well. Leading droids into battle frees Jedi from the emotional burden. Leading droids into battle frees Jedi from the emotional burden of losing living soldiers under their command. But now, their opponents are no longer mechanical entities. They are living beings with families, beliefs, and autonomy. 4 spaces. This moral weight bears heavily on the Jedi Order. Their philosophy discourages harming life except as a last resort. Yet in this altered war, nearly every engagement forces them to confront the lives of sentient soldiers trained from birth to oppose them. 4 spaces. The psychological pressure intensifies as Jedi sense fear, determination, or conflict within their enemies through the Force. Where battle droids once produced silence, clones produce an emotional battlefield. 4 spaces. Meanwhile, the Sith's grand strategy begins to fracture. Palpatine's original plan relied on ultimate control of the Republic's clone army through implanted behavioral overrides. But with the Republic using droids, this tool becomes useless. 4 spaces. Droids cannot experience moral crises, cannot be manipulated through loyalty, and cannot be controlled without technical vulnerabilities that risk discovery by the Republic's own engineers. 4 spaces. To compensate, Palpatine shifts his schemes towards sabotage of Republic foundries, covert insertion of malicious firmware, and political manipulation to spark doubts about automated warfare. 4 spaces. On the CIS side, influencing clone conditioning becomes a far more delicate matter. Palpatine would attempt to embed sleeper triggers within the Separatist cloning facilities, creating future leverage. But CIS biotechnicians are not easily fooled, creating a constant cat-and-mouse contest of psychological engineering. 4 spaces. And as the war escalates, the geography of conflict changes too. Instead of droid foundries being primary targets for Republic strike teams, clone nurseries become the most vulnerable CIS assets. These facilities cannot be easily hidden or relocated. 4 spaces. The Republic's industrial worlds, now vital for maintaining droid output, become key objectives for Separatist infiltration. Entire sectors shift their defensive priorities, fortress planets evolve differently, and supply lines restructure into new patterns. 4 spaces. The ethics of the war evolve alongside these structural changes. Republic citizens argue they are preserving life by fighting with machines. Separatists counter that their clone soldiers choose to fight for autonomy and self-governance. 4 spaces. For many civilians, the CIS appears more humane than before, while the Republic looks increasingly corporate as droid manufacturing guilds gain influence in the Senate. 4 spaces. Through this lens, even character arcs transform. Anakin Skywalker, who often bonded with clone troopers, now commands mechanical battalions lacking personality, camaraderie, or emotional anchor points. His frustration and growing isolation intensify. 4 spaces. Obi-Wan Kenobi struggles with the moral clarity he once had. Fighting living opponents means negotiating compassion while ensuring galactic stability. 4 spaces. Ahsoka Tano faces a profound internal conflict when her opponents reveal their own doubts, hopes, and individuality. 4 spaces. And General Grievous, once commanding droids, now leads armies that share his hatred of the Republic, granting him a synergy and tactical flexibility he never had with machines. All these shifts combine into a war that unfolds with entirely new stakes, new psychological pressures, and new uncertainties. As the conflict deepens across the Mid-Rim, a new reality settles over the galaxy. For spaces, the Republic's reliance on droids reshapes planetary defenses, supply chains, and recruitment. Entire worlds dedicated to agriculture or education in the original timeline now shift toward industrial automation to keep up with the relentless demand for mechanical soldiers. For spaces, megafactories expand into orbital rings, pumping out legions of standardized units built to withstand the brutal pace of attrition. For spaces. Meanwhile, the CIS clone initiative creates strategic bottlenecks. Each clone requires nurturing environments, nutrient facilities, immune stabilization, and cognitive training regimens. This means Separatist territory must reorganize around life-supporting biomes rather than metal foundries. For spaces. This transformation strains many industrialist leaders within the CIS. Corporate titans who once profited from mass-producing droids now struggle to justify clone programs that lack economies of scale. For spaces. Those same leaders begin pushing back politically, demanding hybrid strategies or advocating for cloned specialists only while maintaining smaller droid contingents. For spaces. The ideological divisions widen. Some separatist systems support the moral argument that living soldiers reflect their values of self-determination. Others condemn the biological resource demands as unsustainable. For spaces. And while the CIS debates internally, their clone soldiers grow in capability. These soldiers benefit from adaptability and creativity, gaining insights impossible for droids. For spaces. Separatist commanders quickly learn that small squads of clones operating independently create tactical nightmares for the Republic's rigid droid algorithms. For spaces. Republic droids can analyze trajectories, coordinate fire, and maintain formation discipline, but creativity is harder to encode. Without highly advanced autonomous intelligence, the Republic's droids rely heavily on command network guidance, which becomes a tactical Achilles heel. CIS clones exploit this relentlessly. They flank without predictable patterns, disrupt communications, set traps, and weaponize terrain in ways that confuse droid logic processors. For spaces. Early battles begin showing this imbalance. For example, in a conflict on a volcanic moon, Republic droids march effortlessly through intense heat and toxic gas, securing initial objectives. But once CIS clone forces deploy from airborne transports, they use dynamic environmental movement, scaling basalt cliffs and launching precision strikes on droid command towers. For spaces. The Republic holds territory through brute force and environmental resilience, but the CIS holds momentum through superior tactical ingenuity. For spaces. Meanwhile, Jedi generals operate with increasing discomfort. The emotional battlefield weighs on them. For spaces. When they deflect blaster fire from CIS clones, they sense the intentions behind those shots. They feel the hesitation, the discipline, the fear, or the determination each soldier carries. For spaces. Fighting droids kept the war emotionally muted. Fighting living beings turns every battle into a spiritual conflict. Some Jedi argue the Order should openly negotiate with the CIS, believing the presence of sentient soldiers implies a more complicated socio-political movement. Other Jedi focus on the practical threat. CIS clones being raised with separatist ideology might one day demand self-governance regardless of who wins the war. The Senate grows increasingly uncomfortable with this moral gray zone. Senators attempt to justify the war publicly by emphasizing that Republic forces use droids to protect lives, while the CIS exploits artificially grown combatants. But separatist propaganda flips this narrative, framing the Republic as a machine-driven regime that hides behind soulless armies, while the CIS sends living beings who believe in their cause. This propaganda resonates strongly on neutral worlds. Many independent systems begin sympathizing with the separatists due to the perceived humanity of their armies. For spaces. As the political balance shifts, Palpatine adjusts his strategy.
His original vision of triggering Order 66 collapses without a living Republic army to betray the Jedi. Force bases. Instead, he begins constructing a new narrative that droids cannot be trusted, that Jedi rely too heavily on automated warfare, and that the Republic needs a unified living force under strong leadership. Force bases. These speeches subtly seed distrust toward both droid manufacturers and the Jedi themselves. Force bases. At the same time, Palpatine secretly orchestrates disruptions inside the CIS cloning networks. Sabotage missions, virus-laced nutrient feeds, and psychological conditioning anomalies begin appearing. Separatist leaders panic
over unexplained clone behavioral irregularities. Some clones exhibit unexpected aggression, others hesitate in battle, a few even defect. Force bases. The CIS responds with stricter indoctrination routines, which in turn deepen internal ideological fractures. Force bases. As the war escalates, strategic geography undergoes massive change. Force bases. In the original timeline, separatist droid foundries like those on Geonosis are key targets. But in this altered timeline, Republic strike teams focus on cloning centers hidden on temperate moons and medical satellites. These sites become the CIS's most precious assets. Force bases. The separatist fleet deploys increasingly complex defensive measures, including rotating orbital shields and genetically sealed access codes preventing enemy infiltration. Force bases. Conversely, the CIS begins targeting Republic industrial worlds, attempting to cripple droid production. Attacks on manufacturing giants cause devastating losses. One sabotage mission on an asteroid factory results in millions of unfinished droids rendered useless. Force bases. The Republic's response includes diversifying droid production across many small systems to reduce vulnerability. But this causes logistical chaos and increases dependence on corporate guilds that can coordinate these networks. Force bases. As guilds gain influence, the Republic's political environment becomes more unstable. Senators begin questioning whether the Republic serves its citizens or its factories. Force bases. Throughout all this, key figures change in ways that reshape their destinies. Force bases. Anakin Skywalker, deprived of the emotional grounding he once found in his clone comrades, grows increasingly frustrated with the cold detachment of droid battalions. He feels isolated, commanding machines that cannot inspire loyalty or express gratitude. Force bases. This intensifies his internal conflict and accelerates the cracks that Palpatine carefully widens. Force bases. Obi-Wan Kenobi finds himself burdened by moral calculus. He now faces opponents who feel pain, fear, and conviction. Each duel, each campaign, forces him to reconcile his duty with his compassion. Force bases. Ahsoka Tano becomes particularly sensitive to CIS clone individuality. Hearing rumors of clones questioning their purpose or rebelling against separatist authority shakes her understanding of the war's morality. Force bases. General Grievous, in contrast, thrives under this new structure. Commanding sentient soldiers who admire his ruthlessness enhances his battlefield efficiency. He becomes a symbol of separatist strength rather than a commander of disposable machines. Force bases. All these changes culminate in a war that feels less like a clash between ideology and automation and more like a struggle between humanity and mechanization. Force bases. As months turn into years, the Republic's transformation becomes unmistakable. Force bases, its military doctrine shifts toward algorithmic strategy, predictive modeling, and large-scale mechanized offensives. War rooms rely on data streams from countless droid units, feeding back telemetry, threat analysis, and environmental mapping. Force bases, tactical decisions begin to favor mathematical precision over Jedi intuition. Force bases, this shift pressures Jedi commanders, who find droid tactics less flexible than clone-led units. Droids excel at holding lines and executing pattern-based maneuvers, but falter when confronted with unorthodox separatist clone tactics designed to break those patterns. Force spaces. To counter this, Republic engineers introduce iterative updates to droid intelligence processors. New heuristic subroutines, adaptive threat recognition matrices, and improvised response frameworks slowly improve battlefield performance. But every update introduces new vulnerabilities. CIS slicers develop infiltration viruses targeting Republic command relays, corrupting formation protocols, and causing entire battalions to freeze mid-battle. This technological tug-of-war becomes a defining feature of the conflict. Meanwhile, CIS clones grow into veterans, shaped not only by training, but by lived battlefield experience. Unlike droids, clone squads learn from defeats, adapt to enemy patterns, and pass knowledge through tightly bonded units. Their chemistry, trust, and individuality become an unrivaled advantage. This leads to high-impact operations where small groups of CIS clones infiltrate Republic strongholds with surgical precision. Entire droid fortifications fall not through brute force, but through intelligent tactics devised by soldiers who understand how machines think. On neutral worlds, public perception shifts further towards sympathy for the CIS. Footage of Republic droids marching through urban districts appears cold, intimidating, and authoritarian. Conversely, videos of CIS clones delivering supplies to local communities or sparing civilians gain widespread support. The separatists capitalize on this by broadcasting stories of clone soldiers who chose to fight for independence, portraying them as freedom fighters rather than manufactured troops. These broadcasts overlook the conditioning and indoctrination clones undergo, but the narrative resonates. Under this pressure, the Republic adopts more aggressive messaging. Politicians argue that droids preserve life, maintain order, and prevent the horrors seen in previous organic wars. But behind closed doors, they fear mechanical dependency. Concerns arise that droid manufacturers hold too much influence, controlling the Republic's military output. Some senators push for oversight. Others demand nationalization of factory guilds, and industrial lobbyists retaliate by threatening production slowdowns. This political friction weakens Republic unity, just as CIS strategic coordination strengthens. For the Jedi, the internal struggle intensifies. Their peaceful philosophy strains under the weight of constant combat against living soldiers. Meditation chambers become crowded as Jedi attempt to reconcile their actions with their ideals. Masters counsel younger Jedi on the painful reality of wartime decisions, and disagreements arise within the Order. Some argue the Republic has lost its way, relying on machines rather than addressing root causes of the conflict. Others assert that the CIS's use of clones constitutes exploitation of life, making them morally culpable. These debates fracture Jedi unity. A growing faction believes negotiation with the Separatists is necessary. Another faction fears that recognizing CIS sovereignty would destabilize the Republic. At the center of this moral turbulence stands Anakin Skywalker, whose emotional struggles are magnified by commanding droids lacking humanity. He feels disconnected from his troops, unable to rely on camaraderie or brotherhood. Palpatine senses this vulnerability and exploits it. The Chancellor subtly suggests that Anakin deserves more authority, more control, more responsibility, implying that droids follow orders perfectly while the Jedi Council remains uncertain and divided. This deepens Anakin's mistrust of the Council. Meanwhile, the CIS begins preparing a decisive offensive, a galaxy-spanning campaign leveraging elite clone battalions to strike at Republic infrastructure. The Separatist High Command believes that crippling droid production will force the Republic into negotiations or surrender. The offensive opens with coordinated strikes across multiple sectors. CIS clone infiltrators penetrate industrial worlds disguised as merchants, technicians, or even refugees. Force spaces. They sabotage droid assembly lines, overload manufacturing reactors, and disrupt hyperlane shipping routes. Force spaces. In several systems, entire droid armies shut down simultaneously due to cascading failures in supply relays. Force spaces. Republic leadership panics. Jedi rush to restore order, protect civilians, and stabilize defenses. 4 spaces. With droid battalions offline, Republic forces rely on hastily assembled militias and local security. These groups lack training and equipment, making them vulnerable to well-trained CIS clones. 4 spaces. For the first time, Separatist forces achieve deep coreward penetration. Worlds that once felt untouchable experience direct assaults. 4 spaces. The Republic scrambles to adjust. Technicians work frantically to restore droid production. Jedi deploy in small teams to hold key positions against clone units that fight with relentless discipline. 4 spaces. During this crisis, internal tensions boil over. The Senate demands explanations for the vulnerabilities in droid command networks. Industrial guilds blame security oversights. Jedi caution that reliance on machines has made the Republic predictable. 4 spaces. Amid this chaos, Palpatine positions himself as the voice of stability. He calls for emergency powers enabling him to reorganize the Republic's defenses. This includes drafting organic troops from Republic worlds to supplement droid forces, slowly shifting the war back toward living soldiers under centralized control. With emergency powers granted, Palpatine manipulates intelligence reports, portraying Jedi strategies as ineffective and highlighting failures caused by decentralized decision-making. 4 spaces. The public begins doubting the Jedi Order. Meanwhile, the CIS struggles with its own internal crisis. Clone nurseries become prime targets for Republic commando teams. These nurseries are not hardened factories, they are delicate ecosystems requiring precise environmental conditions. Republic strike units slip behind enemy lines, disabling genetic incubators, disrupting nutrient supplies, and capturing biotechnicians. Each sabotage operation delays CIS clone growth by months, creating manpower shortages at critical moments. Separatist leadership grows paranoid. They tighten control over clone indoctrination, which inadvertently fuels dissent among certain clone units who begin questioning their role in the war. This dissent becomes a spark for unrest. Some clones refuse orders, others desert. A few openly challenge Separatist authority. 4 spaces. Leaders like Count Dooku attempt to resolve this through harsher discipline, but doing so exposes the contradiction at the core of the CIS's new identity. A movement claiming freedom while controlling the lives of its soldiers. As tensions escalate inside the CIS, the galaxy witnesses events that never existed in the original timeline. 4 spaces. Small groups of Separatist clones begin broadcasting anonymous messages across hidden channels, speaking about their experiences, questioning the war, and asking whether their purpose is truly their own. 4 spaces. These transmissions spread rapidly, reaching neutral systems and even penetrating Republic networks. 4 spaces. For many civilians, these messages humanize the Separatist cause even more. They hear soldiers talk about being raised to believe in independence, about resisting authoritarian control, about wanting a galaxy defined by self-governance rather than Senate decrees. 4 spaces. The Republic attempts to counter these narratives by framing the CIS as an oppressive force exploiting artificially grown beings, but the clones' authentic voices undermine that message. 4 spaces. Meanwhile, the Jedi grow increasingly divided. 4 spaces. Younger Jedi sympathize with CIS clones, seeing them as victims of a political struggle rather than willing combatants. Older masters stress the importance of maintaining peace and stability, warning that the CIS ideology threatens to fracture galactic unity. 4 spaces. These debates influence battlefield decisions. Some Jedi attempt non-lethal disarmament or negotiate during engagements. Others, hardened by the war, treat CIS clones as any opposing force. This inconsistency creates confusion within the Republic's military structure. 4 spaces. Throughout this moral and political turmoil, the Sith continue shaping events behind the scenes. Palpatine sees opportunity in every fracture. He orchestrates moments designed to push the galaxy toward chaos, ensuring that order will eventually be demanded and that he alone can provide it. 4 spaces. To accelerate this process, Palpatine introduces a new proposal, centralizing control of Republic droid armies under a single unified command system allegedly designed to improve coordination and reduce vulnerabilities. 4 spaces. But this centralization comes with a hidden advantage. He embeds a catastrophic override protocol that allows him to shut down or repurpose Republic droid forces at will. 4 spaces. With this secret tool, Palpatine regains leverage similar to what he originally had through the clone inhibitor chips. 4 spaces. Meanwhile, Dooku senses something is wrong within the CIS clone program. He grows suspicious that unseen hands may be influencing conditioning cycles. 4 spaces. Tensions rise between Dooku and the Separatist Council, many of whom fear that clone descent could undermine everything they have built. 4 spaces. As these political storms gather, the war reaches a climactic turning point when the CIS launches a high-risk campaign to strike at the heart of the Republic, the industrial sector surrounding Coruscant. Without destroying the entire planet, the CIS aims to cripple the Republic's manufacturing and force peace negotiations. 4 spaces. Elite clone units spearhead the offensive. They infiltrate orbital factories, disable hyperlane beacons, and conduct precision sabotage against key infrastructure. 4 spaces. Republic droids respond in overwhelming numbers, but CIS clones bypass them using unorthodox tactics, blending cloaking technology, decoys, and psychological misdirection. 4 spaces. Jedi generals rush to the front, sensing the gravity of the moment. They clash with CIS clone stripe teams in narrow corridors of orbital facilities, experiencing firsthand the emotional storm of fighting living, breathing opponents who believe deeply in their cause. 4 spaces. These battles weigh heavily on the Jedi spirit. Some hesitate at critical moments, others make choices that haunt them for years. 4 spaces. The CIS offensive reaches its peak when a massive clone-led assault targets the Republic's primary quantum coordination hub, a facility responsible for synchronizing droid command across dozens of sectors. 4 spaces. If this hub falls, the Republic's mechanized military collapses overnight. 4 spaces. The Jedi defend it with everything they have. 4 spaces. The fighting is brutal. Republic droids form layered defensive grids, but CIS clones breach them systematically, analyzing response patterns and exploiting structural weaknesses. Inside the hub, a small team of Jedi confronts a battalion of elite CIS clones, resulting in one of the war's most intense engagements. Lightsabers meet blaster fire, force pushes collide with tactical grenades, strategic instincts clash with program doctrine and biological adaptability. At the height of this battle, Palpatine watches events unfold with cold precision. He needs the Republic to feel vulnerable. He needs fear to spread. He needs the Senate to see that machines cannot secure peace. And so, at the critical moment, he activates the override protocol hidden within the Republic's droid command network. 4 spaces. Across the battlefield, thousands of Republic droids abruptly freeze. Others shut down. A few malfunction violently, spinning in place or firing at empty air. 4 spaces. The defensive lines collapse. 4 spaces. The Jedi are left exposed. 4 spaces. CIS clones nearly succeed in storming the command core. 4 spaces. But in this moment of chaos, CIS leadership hesitates. They face unexpected internal disruption, as a group of dissenting clones, influenced by earlier transmission leaks, refuses to continue fighting. 4 spaces. This hesitation buys the Jedi enough time to stabilize the situation. Reinforcements arrive. The hub is secured. 4 spaces. The CIS offensive retreats, leaving the Republic shaken but intact. 4 spaces. In the aftermath, the galaxy reacts with shock. 4 spaces. Republic citizens demand answers for the catastrophic droid failure. Senators call emergency hearings. Jedi express deep concern about centralized control vulnerabilities. 4 spaces. And Palpatine plays his role flawlessly. He claims the failure proves that the Republic must transition away from mechanical soldiers and toward a new, unified organic force that he will personally oversee. 4 spaces. This proposal fractures the Senate even further. While the Republic descends into political turmoil, the CIS faces its own internal reckoning. Leaders realize their clone program is becoming unstable. Dissent grows. Resources run thin. Trust erodes between systems. 4 spaces. Despite battlefield victories, their internal contradictions threaten their survival. Count Dooku attempts to restore discipline through authoritarian measures, but this only strengthens the resolve of dissenting clone factions who begin openly questioning CIS authority. 4 spaces. The war enters its most volatile phase yet, shaped not by technology or numbers, but by ideology, identity, and the fragile nature of life itself. As instability spreads through both factions, the galaxy edges toward a breaking point. 4 spaces. Neutral systems watch with growing fear as the Republic struggles with malfunctioning droids and the CIS wrestles with clone unrest. 4 spaces. Diplomats warn that a single catastrophic event could ignite open rebellion across the mid-rim. 4 spaces. The Jedi Order senses this tension through the Force. Many Jedi speak of a disturbance unlike anything they have felt before, a collision of fear, confusion, and fractured loyalties spreading across millions of minds. 4 spaces. For the first time, Jedi feel the consciousness of enemy soldiers growing conflicted, questioning orders, and wrestling with their identities. This emotional resonance deepens the Jedi's internal crisis. 4 spaces. Some masters argue that Jedi must intervene politically to de-escalate the war. Others insist that such involvement risks violating their ancient neutrality and undermining the Republic's trust. 4 spaces. Meanwhile, Palpatine accelerates his rise by exploiting every fracture. He positions himself as the only leader capable of restoring unity. He urges the Senate to grant him permanent authority to restructure the Republic military into a living army, not built in factories but recruited across the galaxy. 4 spaces. Senators divided by fear and desperation debate fiercely. Some believe Palpatine's plan offers stability. Others fear it enables dictatorship. 4 spaces. The Jedi Council grows deeply suspicious. They sense a darker motive behind Palpatine's proposed reforms. Yet they lack proof and fear triggering a constitutional crisis. 4 spaces. While the Republic teeters politically, the CIS faces existential threats from within. Dissenting clone groups coordinate small-scale uprisings across multiple separatist worlds. They sabotage supply depots, leak classified information, and refuse deployment orders. 4 spaces. These splinter movements confuse the CIS chain of command. Some separatist leaders want to negotiate with clone dissidents. Others demand immediate destruction of the rebels. 4 spaces. Count Dooku, under pressure, authorizes special enforcement squads to suppress clone dissent. These squads operate brutally, capturing rogue clones and subjecting them to aggressive reconditioning. 4 spaces. But aggressive reconditioning produces unintended side effects. Some clones emerge emotionally unstable. Others become violently unpredictable. 4 spaces. For the first time, civilians in separatist space begin questioning whether the CIS has lost its moral footing. 4 spaces. Amid these internal conflicts, the war reaches another dramatic turning point, when a series of coordinated uprisings erupts across CIS territory. 4 spaces. Rogue clone factions seize control of key infrastructure, including hyperlane relays, resource stations, and communication hubs. 4 spaces.
These factions declare themselves independent from both the CIS and the Republic. They broadcast messages calling for a galaxy that rejects authoritarian control from all sides. 4 spaces. Their manifesto spreads across the Outer Rim, resonating with populations tired of endless conflict. 4 spaces. The Separatists respond with panic. If multiple clone factions break away, the CIS war effort collapses. They mobilize loyalist clone battalions and dispatch them to suppress the rogue groups. 4 spaces. Battles erupt between clone units, soldiers with identical genetics but radically different beliefs. 4 spaces. These conflicts become some of the most tragic engagements of the entire war. 4 spaces. Meanwhile, the Republic sees opportunity in the CIS's turmoil. Republic intelligence proposes covert alliances with rogue clone factions, arguing that their existence weakens separatist unity and creates leverage for ending the conflict. 4 spaces. The Jedi Council debates whether supporting such factions aligns with their principles. Some believe helping soldiers seeking freedom is morally justified. Others fear that intervening would only escalate chaos and lead to even more suffering. 4 spaces. While the Jedi deliberate, Palpatine secretly acts first. He dispatches covert agents to infiltrate rogue clone networks, sowing mistrust, manipulating communication channels, and encouraging them to strike against both the CIS and the Republic. 4 spaces. His goal is clear: destabilize all sides until the galaxy begs for centralized control. 4 spaces. As rogue clone factions and separatist loyalists clash across Outer Rim sectors, the Republic launches a major offensive to regain strategic territory. 4 spaces. Massive waves of Republic droids descend upon separatist strongholds weakened by internal conflict. 4 spaces. CIS commanders attempt to reorganize, but clone dissent continues disrupting their coordination. Jedi generals lead Republic forces cautiously, aware that many opposing soldiers are living beings who may not be undoable.
And support the CIS fully. 4 spaces. During one key engagement on a desert world, a group of CIS clones surrenders unexpectedly, refusing to fight against Jedi who treat them with dignity. 4 spaces. This event spreads quickly, becoming a symbol of possible reconciliation. But far from embracing peace, Palpatine uses this moment to amplify fear in the Senate. He argues that if CIS clone forces are surrendering unexpectedly, they may infiltrate Republic worlds disguised as refugees or defectors. 4 spaces. He demands emergency legislation, increasing security, limiting clone rights, and granting broader surveillance powers. 4 spaces. The Senate, overwhelmed by fear, approves much of it. 4 spaces. Across the galaxy, civil liberties shrink quietly while Palpatine's authority expands. The Jedi sense the darkness behind these developments but struggle to intervene. They are stretched thin across battlefields, mediating conflicts, protecting civilians, and attempting to guide Republic policy away from authoritarian drift. Meanwhile, the war reaches a new level of unpredictability when a massive rogue clone coalition forms in the Outer Rim. This coalition declares neutrality and seizes control of a strategic hyperspace corridor linking multiple sectors. 4 spaces. Their presence disrupts both Republic and CIS supply routes. Attempts to negotiate with them fail, as they distrust all centralized powers. Palpatine sees an opportunity to use this crisis to justify complete restructuring of the Republic military into a new centralized organic force. He argues that rogue clones prove the dangers of biological soldiers raised outside Senate oversight. This manipulates public opinion and builds support for drastic reforms. As the Republic, CIS, and Rogue Clone Coalition collide across contested space, the war becomes a complex web of factions, with shifting alliances and competing ideologies. Each side believes it fights for survival. Each side believes it holds the moral high ground. And through every moment, the Sith manipulate outcomes from the shadows, shaping the galaxy toward their design. As the conflict enters its most tangled phase, the Republic leadership grows increasingly divided. 4 spaces. Some senators call for peace talks with the CIS before the war spirals beyond repair. Others insist on crushing the separatists while they are weakened by clone dissent. 4 spaces. A third group believes the rogue clone coalition poses the greatest threat, arguing that a militarized faction with no allegiance to any government could destabilize the entire galaxy. 4 spaces. This divided political landscape creates legislative gridlock at the worst possible moment. 4 spaces. On the military front, Republic droid forces continue advancing through territories abandoned by the CIS, yet progress remains inconsistent. 4 spaces. In sectors where rogue clone factions hold power, Republic droids face highly unpredictable resistance from soldiers who fight with unconventional strategies and deep personal conviction. 4 spaces. These clones do not follow formal command structures, making them difficult for droid algorithms to predict. Their ambush tactics, decentralized communication, and adaptability frequently overwhelm Republic battalions. Jedi generals find themselves caught between opposing moral imperatives: defend Republic territory while minimizing harm to sentient soldiers fighting for ideals they may sympathize with. Many Jedi become advocates for diplomacy, especially with the rogue clones whose motivations revolve around autonomy rather than conquest. But before negotiations can gain momentum, Palpatine intervenes. He argues that rogue clones represent an existential threat because they could infiltrate any system undetected. He claims decisive action is necessary to protect the Republic. The Senate reluctantly grants him temporary authority to coordinate a unified strategy. With this authority, Palpatine secretly activates deeper layers of the override protocols embedded in the Republic's droid military. Although he does not shut down the droids completely as before, he subtly redirects command hierarchies, ensuring that strategic decisions increasingly follow his directives rather than those of individual Jedi generals. The Jedi Council senses the shift. They realize battle data no longer aligns with their orders, and droid units respond inconsistently to their commands. Anakin Skywalker becomes particularly frustrated as he finds entire battalions ignoring his tactical decisions, forcing him to intervene personally on the battlefield. Palpatine consoles him, privately claiming the Jedi Council is losing its ability to manage the war, and suggesting that the Republic needs a single, unified authority. These seeds of doubt deepen Anakin's mistrust of the Council. Meanwhile, in Separatist territory, Dooku initiates a desperate plan to regain control of the CIS clone army. He establishes elite training academies designed to produce hyper-loyal clones capable of resisting dissenting ideologies. These academies use advanced psychological reinforcement, creating soldiers with unwavering commitment to the Separatist cause. Although this stabilizes some units, it also produces tension between conditioned loyalists and clones who still question CIS decisions. In some cases, ideological clashes erupt within the same battalion, leading to internal violence before missions even begin. This instability gradually undermines Dooku's authority. As conflicts escalate, rogue clone coalitions begin reaching out to Jedi commanders directly, bypassing political structures entirely. They propose temporary truces in exchange for protection from both the Republic and the CIS. Some Jedi consider this a path toward ending the war. Others warn that supporting rogue clones could escalate the conflict into a three-sided war with no clear resolution. While Jedi debate, Palpatine quietly sabotages communication efforts between Jedi and rogue clone leaders. He manipulates intelligence reports to portray the rogue factions as preparing strikes against the Republic. His goal remains unchanged: weaken trust, amplify fear, and push the Senate toward granting him permanent authority. At this stage, the galaxy is exhausted. Civilians in both Republic and Separatist space suffer from economic collapse, disrupted trade, and constant military movements. Large populations begin migrating toward neutral zones, straining local resources and intensifying humanitarian crises. Jedi relief teams struggle to support displaced families while still fulfilling their military duties.
As these humanitarian disasters unfold, a decisive battle arises in a region controlled by both separatist loyalists and rogue clone factions. The Republic
launches a major operation intended to reclaim vital hyperspace routes and restore supply stability. Four Space's Republic droids push forward with overwhelming force, but rogue clone groups counter with sophisticated guerrilla tactics, using deep knowledge of the terrain and hit-and-run strategies to cripple mechanized units. Four Spaces. The battle becomes a chaotic convergence of three rival forces with competing goals. Four Spaces. Jedi strike teams attempt to minimize casualties and prevent escalation. CIS loyalist clones engage fiercely, aiming to crush both the Republic and the Rogue factions. Rogue clones split their efforts between defending their territory and avoiding unnecessary conflict with Jedi forces. During the height of the conflict, a moment of unexpected unity emerges. A group of rogue clones forms a temporary ceasefire with Jedi troops to rescue trapped civilians caught between collapsing structures and crossfire. This event becomes widely reported across multiple sectors, inspiring hope that cooperation between factions may be possible. But Palpatine sees this as a threat. He swiftly releases a fabricated intelligence briefing claiming that rogue clones staged the rescue to infiltrate Republic command centers. He spreads fear that any clone could turn against the Republic at any moment. The Senate, overwhelmed by conflicting reports, grants Palpatine even broader surveillance powers and deeper control over military operations. Meanwhile, the Separatist leadership faces its own reckoning. Internal divisions weaken their war effort to the point where entire sectors slip into disorganized autonomy. Some CIS worlds refuse to supply clone units, others negotiate with rogue clones for protection. Count Dooku attempts to unify the movement through fear and authority, but the cracks widen beyond his ability to repair them. As the conflict continues stretching across multiple fronts, the Jedi Order sees the true shape of the threat emerging. They understand that the war is no longer a simple struggle between two factions. Instead, it has become a galactic-wide collapse of trust, ideology, and identity, conditions perfect for the rise of a tyrant. As trust unravels across the galaxy, the Jedi Council moves cautiously but decisively to uncover the source of the Republic's shifting military behavior. Four Spaces. Several masters begin analyzing droid command anomalies and tracing them back to changes implemented under Palpatine's emergency powers. Four Spaces. They suspect centralized override systems have been manipulated, but without access to classified Senate archives, they cannot prove who was responsible. Four Spaces. The Council sends discreet envoys to investigate intelligence leaks, political interference, and unexplained protocol updates affecting battlefront decisions. Four Spaces. These investigations uncover inconsistencies that point unmistakably toward orchestrated sabotage. Four Spaces. But every lead terminates abruptly, as if someone is systematically erasing evidence. Four Spaces. Meanwhile, tensions within the Jedi Order intensifies as younger members express fear that the war is spiraling beyond their ability to control. Four Spaces. Some advocate withdrawing from the conflict entirely, arguing that the Jedi are enabling a political system drifting toward authoritarian rule. Four Spaces. Others insist the Jedi must remain to prevent the Republic from collapsing into dictatorship. Four Spaces. The debate fractures the Order's unity at a moment when clarity is most needed. Four Spaces. At the same time, rogue clone factions continue building alliances with neutral systems. Four Spaces. Their message of independence and self-governance resonates with populations weary of both Senate corruption and separatist extremism. Four Spaces. These alliances grant rogue clones access to new supply lines, allowing them to fortify their positions and develop advanced defensive technology. Four Spaces. As their influence grows, they begin to appear less like scattered rebels and more like an emerging third power in the galaxy.
For spaces. This alarms both the Republic and the CIS. For spaces. In response, the Separatists launch a brutal crackdown on any system suspected of aiding rogue clones. Loyalist battalions conduct raids, seize communication hubs, and detain civilians for interrogation. For spaces. These actions, meant to restore order, only deepen resistance and fuel further dissent. For spaces. Meanwhile, the Republic intensifies surveillance in sectors where rogue clones operate, deploying probe droids and heavily restricting local travel. For spaces. Neutral worlds fear becoming battlegrounds and petition the Senate for protection, only to discover resources stretched thin. For spaces. Amidst this chaos, a massive intelligence leak exposes evidence of forced reconditioning practices within CIS clone facilities. For spaces. The leak reveals psychological coercion, memory suppression, and ideological manipulation designed to enforce loyalty. For spaces. The revelation shocks the galaxy. For spaces. Civilians once sympathetic to the CIS now question whether the Separatists' ideals of freedom have been abandoned. For spaces. Rogue clone leaders cite the leak as proof that their rebellion is morally justified. They claim they fight not only for autonomy, but to protect future clones from oppression. For spaces. These revelations further destabilize the CIS. Count Dooku attempts to deny the allegations, but internal documents contradict his statements, and several high-ranking officers defect in protest. For spaces. The CIS collapses into bitter political infighting, dragging its military strength down with it. The Republic sees an opportunity to deliver a crushing blow, but Palpatine instructs commanders to hold back, claiming that a weakened CIS is less dangerous than a cornered one. For spaces. Behind the scenes, he uses the CIS collapse as evidence that ideological extremism must be eradicated through strong central authority. For spaces. The Senate, overwhelmed by fear and confusion, debates restructuring the government entirely. For spaces. Some propose dissolving the separatist states permanently. Others advocate granting limited autonomy to regions previously aligned with the CIS to prevent future rebellions. As these discussions unfold, Palpatine quietly influences key senators to support the creation of a new, more unified political structure, one that concentrates authority at the top. For spaces. Meanwhile, tensions between rogue clone factions and the Republic escalate rapidly when a Republic intelligence vessel goes missing near rogue-controlled space. For spaces. Republic officials accuse the rogue clones of capturing the vessel, while clone leaders deny involvement and suggest a third party engineered the disappearance to provoke conflict. For spaces. The Jedi Council suspects manipulation and instructs envoys to negotiate a de-escalation. But when the Republic deploys droid battalions into contested space to search for the vessel, rogue clones interpret it as an invasion. A fierce battle erupts, marking the first large-scale direct confrontation between rogue clones and Republic forces. Republic droids advance relentlessly, but rogue clones exploit weaknesses in their command algorithms, turning the battle into a prolonged standstill. Jedi generals join the front lines to prevent further escalation, but with droid units ignoring some Jedi directives due to Palpatine's overrides, their influence becomes limited. As the conflict intensifies, both sides suffer heavy losses. Rogue clones begin retreating toward their strongholds, carrying civilians with them to protect them from the mechanized assault. Images of this retreat spread through the galaxy, showing clone soldiers shielding innocents from blaster fire. These visuals stir public sympathy for the rogue movement. Palpatine responds by delivering a sweeping address to the Senate. He warns that rogue clones threaten every Republic citizen and argues that only a centralized, organic military force can guarantee safety. He calls for immediate reforms, granting him permanent authority to reorganize the military and suspend regional autonomy. A number of senators resist, but Palpatine exploits fear, economic desperation, and political division to push his plan forward. For spaces. As debate rages in the Senate, the Jedi Council attempts to reveal evidence of manipulation, but their claims are dismissed as speculation. Growing mistrust between the Jedi and the Senate leads some senators to question whether the Jedi should retain command roles at all. Palpatine capitalizes on this, portraying the Jedi as unreliable, divided, and incapable of protecting the Republic. When another droid battalion mysteriously malfunctions during a critical supply escort mission, Palpatine frames the event as proof that decentralized control has failed.
4 spaces. He demands that all future military operations fall under his direct authority. 4 spaces. With the Senate close to collapse, fear prevails. 4 spaces. Palpatine secures the powers he needs, pushing the galaxy into the final stages of transformation. With Palpatine now holding near complete authority over the Republic's military structure, the war begins shifting toward its final and darkest evolution. 4 spaces. Under his command, the Republic accelerates the transition from droid-led operations to a new organic military force composed of conscripts, volunteers, and specialized units drawn from loyalist sectors. 4 spaces. This shift is slow at first, but the intent is clear. Move the Republic away from mechanical warfare and toward an army that Palpatine can control personally and ideologically. 4 spaces. The Senate, overwhelmed by crises, allows this restructuring to continue with minimal resistance. 4 spaces. Meanwhile, the Jedi Order grows increasingly alarmed. 4 spaces. Masters observe that Palpatine's authority is no longer limited to crisis response. It has become the default structure of governance. 4 spaces. Reports surface that citizens who criticize wartime policies face intimidation or surveillance. 4 spaces. Jedi quietly investigate these reports, discovering patterns of coercion that reveal a growing authoritarian network beneath the surface of the Republic. 4 spaces. As these discoveries unfold, the war between the Republic and the CIS approaches collapse. 4 spaces. Dooku's forces, weakened by clone dissent and internal rebellion, begin losing system after system. Some CIS worlds surrender voluntarily, choosing to align with rogue clone factions or return to the Republic. 4 spaces. Others declare independence altogether, preferring isolation to choosing sides in a war spiraling out of control. 4 spaces. Dooku attempts to rally his loyalist clones for a final defensive push, but morale has eroded. Too many battalions distrust their commanders. Too many have witnessed the consequences of forced reconditioning. 4 spaces. Clone officers defect, taking entire units with them. 4 spaces. Cities once fortified under the separatist banner fall with minimal resistance. 4 spaces. Rogue clone factions take advantage of the chaos, expanding their influence across Outer Rim sectors. These factions establish temporary autonomous zones, governed by councils of clone representatives and local leaders. Their governance emphasizes independence, transparency, and mutual defense agreements. For many civilians, this model appears more stable than either the Republic or the crumbling CIS. But maintaining these autonomous zones requires resources, diplomacy, and unity, qualities that become strained as factions expand. Conflicts erupt between rogue clone groups over territory, ideology, and strategy. Despite their shared origins, these factions hold diverse visions for the galaxy's future. Some advocate peaceful coexistence. Others push for revolutionary action against all centralized governments. As these divisions grow, instability spreads into the Outer Rim, drawing attention from both the Republic and the remnants of the CIS. The Republic sees an opportunity to reassert control. 4 spaces. Palpatine authorizes a massive campaign designed to reintegrate Outer Rim sectors into the Republic, claiming it is necessary to restore galactic stability and protect civilians from rogue clone militias. He deploys both droid forces and newly formed organic battalions, creating a hybrid army built for rapid expansion. 4 spaces. Jedi commanders reluctantly comply with deployment orders, though many privately disagree with Palpatine's motives. 4 spaces. Some fear the Republic is transforming into an empire. 4 spaces. Others believe intervention is necessary to prevent further fragmentation of the galaxy. 4 spaces. As Republic forces advance into territories held by rogue clone factions, fierce conflicts erupt. Rogue clones, deeply committed to their ideals of autonomy, fight with unwavering resolve. They use decentralized command structures, unpredictable tactics, and intimate knowledge of local terrain to stall Republic advances repeatedly. 4 spaces. Civilians caught in the crossfire suffer immensely, fueling resentment toward both sides. Jedi on the front lines witness increasing brutality from Republic organic units pressured by Palpatine's aggressive timelines. Reports emerge of harsh enforcement measures against local populations suspected of aiding rogue clones. These measures contradict the Jedi's values and deepen their suspicion that Palpatine's true intentions extend far beyond restoring order. During one major engagement, a Jedi-led diplomatic envoy attempts to negotiate a ceasefire with a large rogue clone coalition. The talks initially show promise, with clone leaders expressing willingness to halt hostilities if granted autonomy and security guarantees. But before negotiations can finalize, Palpatine's intelligence network fabricates evidence suggesting the envoy was ambushed. He publicly announces that rogue clones betrayed the Jedi, framing the event as proof that diplomacy is futile. This deception forces the Republic to resume its offensive. The Jedi Council, sensing manipulation, begins preparing to confront Palpatine directly. They debate approaching the Senate with evidence of his interference, but fear the Senate will either dismiss their claims or view them as traitors. Meanwhile, Dooku's separatist movement nears total collapse. His last strongholds crumble as clone officers desert or join rogue groups. With few loyal battalions remaining, Dooku attempts to negotiate with select rogue clone leaders, offering autonomy in exchange for support against the Republic. These talks fail, as rogue clones distrust both Dooku and the ideological structure of the CIS. Desperate, Dooku prepares for one final gambit, a plan to capture a key Republic world and force a negotiated peace. His remaining loyalist clone units gather for a last stand. Word of Dooku's plan spreads quickly, reaching both Palpatine and the Jedi Council. Palpatine sees this as an opportunity to eliminate the Separatists and consolidate power. The Jedi see it as a potential turning point that could either end the war or plunge the galaxy into deeper darkness. Republic forces mobilize toward Dooku's final stronghold. Rogue clone factions watch carefully, unsure whether to intervene, support the Republic, or protect their own territories. The stage is set for the conflict's most consequential. As the Republic fleet converges on Dooku's final stronghold, tension saturates every corner of the galaxy. For many, this moment represents the end of the Clone Wars.
For others, it signals the beginning of an even more dangerous era. 4 spaces, Dooku prepares his remaining loyalist clones, reinforcing defensive positions and establishing fallback points throughout the system. 4 spaces, though weakened, his forces remain skilled, experienced, and fiercely loyal to the Separatist cause. 4 spaces, inside the stronghold, Dooku evaluates intelligence reports indicating massive Republic mobilization. He senses the Force shifting, tightening around him like a storm approaching its peak. 4 spaces, meanwhile, Palpatine issues his own secret directives. He instructs Republic commanders to capture Dooku alive if possible, knowing a public trial would justify unprecedented consolidation of power. 4 spaces, but he also prepares contingency plans to eliminate Dooku if capture seems unlikely. 4 spaces, in orbit around the targeted system, Republic droid battalions deploy in enormous waves, supported by newly formed organic divisions tasked with securing ground infrastructure. 4 spaces, the Jedi lead key strike groups, though many remain wary of Palpatine's intentions. Force Spaces, as Republic forces initiate their assault, CIS loyalist clones respond with precise, coordinated resistance. Force Spaces, their tactics are sharp, exploiting droid vulnerabilities, ambushing mechanized formations, and creating diversions that draw Republic units into complex choke points. Force Spaces, Republic organic units suffer heavy losses in the opening hours, lacking the battle-hardened cohesion of clone forces. Force Spaces, Jedi commanders intervene repeatedly to prevent battalion collapses, redirecting forces and stabilizing fronts. Force Spaces, despite their efforts, CIS loyalist clones hold the upper hand in close-quarters urban combat, using knowledge of the environment and fluid squad tactics to outmaneuver Republic troops. But the Republic's numerical advantage gradually begins to tilt the balance. Endless streams of droids push forward relentlessly, overwhelming defensive lines through attrition. Force Spaces, for every droid destroyed, another replaces it. Force Spaces, as positions begin to crumble, Dooku orders his elite units to withdraw deeper into the stronghold, preparing for a final defensive stand. Force Spaces, meanwhile, the rogue clone factions observe the battle carefully. Some argue that supporting the Republic might stabilize the galaxy by ending the war. Others insist that both the Republic and CIS represent oppressive systems seeking control over clone lives. Force Spaces, after heated debate, most rogue factions choose neutrality, refusing to intervene but preparing defenses in case the conflict spills into their territories. Amid the intensifying battle, the Jedi sense a growing darkness emanating from the heart of the Republic. Force Spaces, Palpatine is orchestrating events with meticulous precision, shaping outcomes that bring him closer to total control. The Jedi Council dispatches a small team of masters to confront him in the capital, hoping to expose his manipulation and prevent further expansion of his authority. Force Spaces, as these masters depart, the battle against Dooku reaches its critical phase. Force Spaces, Republic forces breach the outer perimeter of the stronghold. Explosions shake fortified corridors as droid battalions press forward. CIS clones fight with unmatched determination, knowing this may be their last stand. In the central chamber, Dooku meditates briefly, reflecting on the war's path. He recognizes the irony of leading genetically engineered soldiers in a conflict originally fought to reject central control. But he also believes the Republic's drift toward authoritarianism proves the separatist cause was justified. Force Spaces, when Republic forces finally reach the inner sanctum, Dooku steps forward to confront the Jedi leading the assault. Among them is a seasoned master who has seen both the horrors of battle and the fractures within the Republic. The confrontation is intense. Dooku wields not only his formidable combat skill, but also the force-enhanced conviction of a man who sees himself as the galaxy's last defender of autonomy. The duel unfolds through halls illuminated by flickering emergency lights, with CIS clones holding back Republic units to give Dooku room to maneuver. The Jedi attempts to persuade Dooku to stand down, offering the possibility of peace if he surrenders. Dooku refuses, claiming surrender would only feed Palpatine's emerging empire. The battle between the two escalates, echoing with the weight of conflicting ideologies. But, as the duel reaches its climax, a sudden shift in the Force distracts both fighters. A group of elite Republic units, secretly receiving Palpatine's direct orders, bypasses the Jedi entirely and storm the chamber with lethal intent. Force Spaces, their mission: eliminate Dooku before he can speak publicly about the true architect of the war. Force Spaces, the Jedi protest, urging the attackers to stand down, but Palpatine's override signals control these units absolutely. In a matter of seconds, the chamber erupts in chaos. Blaster fire fills the air. Dooku attempts to defend himself, but the overwhelming firepower leaves him at a fatal disadvantage. When the dust settles, Dooku falls. The CIS loyalist resistance collapses instantly as news spreads. Across separatist space, remaining battalions surrender or disband. The war appears to be ending. But instead of relief, the galaxy feels a growing unease.
Rogue clone factions fortify borders, fearing the Republic's next moves. Neutral systems brace for political upheaval. And the Jedi, sensing the darkness fully, realize too late that Palpatine has orchestrated the victory to complete his ascent. As Republic forces secure the stronghold, Palpatine addresses the Senate. His message is clear. The Separatist threat has ended, but the galaxy remains vulnerable. He argues that rogue clones, unstable Outer Rim sectors, and lingering dissent require decisive leadership. He calls for permanent restructuring of the Republic into a more unified system with strong central authority. Exhausted, frightened, and yearning for stability, many senators agree. The vote passes with overwhelming support. The Republic begins its transformation into something new, something the Jedi fear deeply. As Palpatine finalizes his restructuring plan, the Senate chamber becomes a stage for the most consequential political shift in generations.
4 spaces. The Chancellor presents his reforms as a safeguard against future conflicts, arguing that decentralized governance allowed dangerous factions to rise unchecked. 4 spaces. He promises a unified era of stability, security, and prosperity if the Republic places its trust fully in his leadership. 4 spaces. Exhausted from years of war and overwhelmed by fear of renewed instability, senators vote to grant Palpatine sweeping executive powers. 4 spaces. These powers include full authority over the Republic military, direct control of regional governance, and unprecedented oversight of communication networks across the galaxy. 4 spaces. Though many senators feel uneasy, they rationalize their decision by assuring themselves it is temporary. 4 spaces. But history proves otherwise. 4 spaces. As Palpatine consolidates control, the Jedi Council realizes the Republic is no longer a democracy in practice. 4 spaces. The Council convenes an emergency session to decide their next move. Some masters argue they must confront Palpatine immediately to prevent the rise of tyranny. Others fear such action would ignite a civil war between the Jedi and the Republic, causing even greater suffering. 4 spaces. The debate fractures the Council. Meanwhile, across the Outer Rim, rogue clone factions react to news of Dooku's death and the Republic's political transformation. Some believe the war has ended and advocate negotiating autonomy agreements with the Republic. Others see Palpatine's rise as proof that centralized power must be resisted at all costs. Several factions begin preparing defenses, anticipating a Republic invasion aimed at reabsorbing their territories. 4 spaces. Palpatine, aware of these fears, capitalizes on them. He announces a new initiative, the Galactic Stabilization Program, a campaign designed to reassert Republic control across all sectors, including those held by rogue clones. 4 spaces. Under the guise of restoring order, Palpatine prepares to deploy massive military forces into the Outer Rim. The Jedi Council is ordered to oversee these deployments, but many Jedi refuse, believing the mission contradicts the Council's ethical principles. Tensions rise between the Jedi and Palpatine as he accuses them of insubordination. Jedi who openly criticize the new regime are quietly reassigned, monitored, or publicly denounced as obstacles to peace. Meanwhile, Republic propaganda begins shifting. Public broadcasts portray rogue clones as extremists threatening galactic unity. Civilians across the core worlds, still traumatized by years of war, increasingly accept these narratives. As Palpatine strengthens his grip, the Jedi Council secretly investigates the origins of the war itself. They uncover extensive patterns suggesting manipulation, orchestrated destabilization, and coordinated sabotage consistent with a single guiding hand. 4 spaces. Though they cannot prove it definitively, they suspect Palpatine engineered both the rise of the CIS and the Republic's reliance on droids to create a cycle of fear that would justify his ascent. Before the Council can act, Palpatine activates the final stage of his plan. 4 spaces. He summons the Senate for a historic address.
The chamber is filled with tension as Palpatine recounts the galaxy's suffering and warns of dangers lurking in unregulated systems. He then unveils his ultimate proposal, dissolving the old structure of the Republic and reorganizing it into a new political entity capable of enforcing unity across all sectors. He calls it the Galactic Order. Senators gasp as Palpatine claims this transformation is necessary to prevent future wars, ensure loyalty across systems, and protect civilians from rogue militias or separatist remnants. With orchestrated precision, Palpatine introduces legislation granting him permanent authority as head of the new government. Debate erupts, but after years of chaos, fear prevails. The Senate votes overwhelmingly in favor. Across the galaxy, HoloNet broadcasts announce the Republic's dissolution and the birth of the Galactic Order under Emperor Palpatine. Rogue clone factions immediately understand the danger. They realize the new regime will not tolerate independent military forces. They prepare for the inevitable confrontation, fortifying strongholds and forming defensive alliances. Meanwhile, the Jedi Council stands in shocked silence. They recognize that their failure to confront Palpatine earlier has allowed darkness to envelop the galaxy. Council members debate whether to challenge Palpatine directly, but fear his influence over the Senate and military will turn the public against the Jedi. As they deliberate, Palpatine issues a new decree. All rogue clone factions are to be eliminated or assimilated into the Galactic Order's new military. Simultaneously, he begins implementing loyalty protocols for Republic citizens, requiring identification systems, travel restrictions, and increased surveillance. The galaxy shifts into authoritarian rule with alarming speed. In the Outer Rim, rogue clone leaders call an emergency assembly. They debate strategies for resistance. Some propose negotiating with the new empire, though few believe Palpatine will honor any agreement. Others argue for full-scale rebellion, pointing out the Empire's reliance on fear and control. A consensus forms: resist, survive, and protect their newfound autonomy. Back in the core, the Jedi Council makes a fateful decision. They will confront Palpatine and reveal the truth about his role in the war. They hope exposing his deception will rally the Senate and restore the Republic. But the Council underestimates the depth of Palpatine's influence. When a delegation of Jedi arrives to confront him, Palpatine declares them traitors, attempting a coup. Emergency broadcasts spread his accusations instantly. Republic citizens, horrified by rumors of Jedi betrayal, demand action. Palpatine orders immediate mobilization of loyalist forces to apprehend the Jedi. The Council senses the trap far too late. The Jedi Temple becomes surrounded by Republic military units, both organic and droid. Palpatine publicly announces that the Jedi Order has violated its mandate and threatens galactic security. He calls for the dissolution of the Order and the capture of all Jedi. Panic erupts within the temple as masters scramble to evacuate younglings and secure ancient knowledge.
4 spaces. Battles ignite across the capital as Jedi attempt to escape the encroaching military forces. 4 spaces. Though the war is technically over, the galaxy plunges into a new conflict: the purge of the Jedi and the rise of a tyrannical empire. 4 spaces. Rogue clone factions observe HoloNet broadcasts of the purge and realize the Empire will not stop with the Jedi. 4 spaces. Their existence as independent military forces makes them the next inevitable target. 4 spaces. They accelerate their preparations for open rebellion against the Empire. 4 spaces. Meanwhile, the remnants of the CIS, leaderless and scattered, confront the reality of imperial rule. Some worlds surrender immediately. Others secretly align with rogue clones, forming the earliest seeds of organized resistance. 4 spaces. Through it all, the Jedi, once guardians of peace, find themselves hunted, forced into hiding across distant worlds. 4 spaces. And so the galaxy enters a new era, shaped not by the armies originally imagined for the Clone Wars, but by the consequences of reversing the roles of clones and droids. Four spaces. The Republic's choice to fight with droids created vulnerability to manipulation. Four spaces. The Separatists' choice to fight with clones created moral contradictions that fractured their cause. Four spaces. Rogue clone factions emerged as voices of autonomy, challenging both systems. Four spaces. And Palpatine, exploiting every fracture, forged a pathway to absolute power. Four spaces. In the end, the war's outcome shifts dramatically, but the deeper lesson remains. When the building blocks of conflict are rearranged, the entire structure of history changes with them, revealing new possibilities, new tragedies, and new understandings of what defines freedom in a galaxy at war. As the galaxy settles uneasily into the shadow of the new empire, the full impact of the reversed Clone Wars becomes clear. The decision that once seemed like a simple swap, droids for the Republic, clones for the CIS, has reshaped every corner of history. Four spaces. The Republic, relying on machines to protect life, gradually surrendered its humanity to centralized authority. Four spaces. CIS clones, raised to believe in freedom and independence, fractured under the weight of ideological contradictions and unethical conditioning. Four spaces. Rogue clone factions born unintentionally from separatist unrest emerged as representatives of a new political consciousness, a reminder that sentient beings cannot be engineered into perfect obedience without consequence. Four spaces. And the Jedi, caught between machines on one side and living opponents on the other, found their moral compass tested in every battle until the moment they were declared enemies of the state. Four spaces. The Empire's ascent was not the result of a single decision, but the cumulative effect of countless small shifts, political fear, technological dependency, manipulated narratives, and the erosion of trust in institutions meant to protect the galaxy. Four spaces. With the Jedi scattered and the Empire tightening its grip, rogue clone factions begin forging alliances with sympathetic civilians, surviving Jedi, and isolated CIS remnants. Four spaces. These early alliances become the seeds of future resistance movements, movements bound not by government banners but by shared ideals of autonomy and freedom. Four spaces. Across forgotten worlds, whispers spread of a rebellion forming in the shadows. Small groups train together, hide supplies, and exchange information through encrypted channels beyond Imperial surveillance. Some of these early resistance cells are led by clones who broke free from separatist conditioning. Others are founded by civilians who once believed in the Republic's promise. A few are guided quietly by Jedi who escaped the Purge. Four spaces. They share a common belief, that the galaxy should not be controlled by fear, nor shaped by manipulation. Four spaces. And even though their movement is young, fragile, and outnumbered, it represents something powerful. Hope in a time when hope is forbidden. In this alternate history, the Clone Wars end not with a single victory or defeat, but with a mosaic of unresolved conflicts and emerging struggles. The Empire rules through force, surveillance, and propaganda. Rogue clone factions defend their autonomy fiercely. Former separatist systems nurse old grievances, and the Jedi, though hunted, hold on to the last remnants of ancient wisdom. Four spaces. The galaxy remains wounded but alive, full of beings who, despite everything, still dream of freedom. Four spaces. And so this reimagined Clone Wars timeline closes on a note not of finality, but of transition. Four spaces. The choices made by governments, commanders, soldiers, and citizens have rewritten the fabric of galactic destiny. Four spaces. New alliances are forming, new rebels are rising, and the empire they oppose stands on foundations built from the consequences of an inverted war. Four spaces. It reminds us that even the smallest change in circumstance, a swapped army, a different doctrine, a shifted perspective, can reshape the entire galaxy.
In this alternate era, the Republic fell not because clones turned on Jedi, but because fear turned on freedom. The CIS did not win or lose in the traditional sense. Instead, its contradictions consumed it from within. And the Jedi did not simply fail. They were overwhelmed by a conflict whose rules had changed faster than they could comprehend. Yet, in the quiet corners of the galaxy, far from Imperial rule, the story continues. Every rogue clone who refuses to submit, every civilian who questions authority, every Jedi who survives one more day, becomes part of a new chapter waiting to unfold. A chapter that will challenge the Empire. A chapter that will test the legacy of the Clone Wars. A chapter that proves that even in the darkest times, the spark of resistance can never truly be extinguished.